Hey everybody, welcome back to our next video as we continue with our ongoing exploration of many things church. In our current section, we have been looking at various aspects of the large sermon from Jesus found in Matthew's Gospel known as the Sermon on the Mount, which encompasses 3 chapters of Matthew's Gospel: Matthew chapter 5, Matthew chapter 6, and Matthew chapter 7. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we looked at the opening portion known as the Beatitudes. In our most recent one, we looked at the remaining portion of chapter 5, and now in this video, we're going to be looking at chapter 6. Now, a little bit of a logistical thing, depending on when you are watching this. If you're watching this straight on YouTube, you'll know that it is popped up in advance. I've recorded this early to account for being gone on vacation the week as we move into our exploration of chapter 6. Now, if you found the link on YouTube and that's only popped up later, well, that means that technology was doing what it was supposed to. So you might be viewing this very quickly after having watched the video for chapter 5, or you might be viewing it a week later. Either way is fine, but I just wanted to have this as an opportunity for you to have this little bit of insight from me as you continue with your exploration. So with that in mind, we are looking at Matthew chapter 6, the central portion of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Now, chapter 6 and to a certain degree chapter 7 kind of have some similar themes. They seem to be making a switch from Jesus' new teachings on old laws that we saw a lot of in chapter 5 into ways that we practice our piety, aka what are those things that we do as an expression of our faith? And specifically, what we see, especially here in chapter 6 and again in chapter 7, is the ways that our intentions lie behind the actions that we do as an expression of our faith. So, and let's bring it into chapter 6. Now, admittedly, this one's going to be pretty short. I'm just kind of giving you a little bit of an overview and kind of the breakdown in terms of sections as I see them. I'm going to let you go ahead and explore this one on your own. So, the idea of practicing our piety, this is how chapter 6 begins. Within the first verse, Jesus actually makes the statement, beware of how you practice your piety in public. Essentially, like, who's your audience? Who are you doing this for? That seems to be what lies behind it. Now, I break this chapter down really into 2 sections. We've got verses 1 through 24, where Jesus clarifies the importance of our intentions in these different acts of piety. And then he kind of makes a switch, the last section, verses 25 through 34, and Jesus talks about worry, the idea of worry, and why do we worry, and what do we worry about, and should we worry? That's kind of that section. So first off, the first section, what is your motivation? That seems to really be what lies underneath it. Is your motivation for practicing your piety to honor God, perhaps by honoring our neighbors with what we are doing? Or is it to be seen by other people doing it so that they think, oh, look how holy that person is? I put this one into 3 sections, or 3 parts of this one section. So the first one, verses 2 through 4, Jesus talks about giving alms. Now, giving alms is basically just giving money to the poor. Helping to provide funds for the poor. And why do we do it? Like, why do we give to the poor? And what attitude do we assume in doing it? So that's the first chunk. Second chunk is about praying. When we pray, and this is verses 5 through 15. Who are we praying for? Not who are we praying to? We're praying to God. But who are we praying for? Are we praying to actually communicate with the Lord? Or are we praying publicly so that other people can see how cool we are and how great prayers we are? And ironically, this one makes me chuckle because as a pastor who leads worship every week, this is something that I do. I pray publicly. Ooh, maybe I should stop doing it and just be silent during that time and offer God my prayers silently. Perhaps. I don't know. Side note. The last section, no. Let me come back. This portion on prayer is important because it also includes Jesus giving us the Lord's Prayer. Now, this also shows up in other Gospels, but it's present here within the context of the Sermon on the Mount, that Jesus teaches the disciples what we know as the Lord's Prayer, and that's in chapter 6, verses 9 through 13. Then, the final chunk of this opening portion is Jesus teaching about fasting in verses 16 through 18. And he specifically talks about treasures. No. This is one more. I guess I was wrong. There's 4 sections. The final section, verses 9 through 24, Jesus is talking about treasures, like what are our treasures and where do we store up treasures. He seems to be talking about the idea of wealth, money, things of that nature. So that's kind of the first portion. And then the second portion, the second section is, of course, Jesus talking about worry. Worry is the main focus, or seems to be the main topic, but Jesus seems to be stressing the idea or the importance of recognizing that we as people are valued by God, and that ultimately God does care for that which is of value. That seems to be the thrust of this portion, but it is a larger portion that's got some good stuff in it. So again, that one's pretty short, but that's an overview of kind of how I break things down in chapter 6. We will be back with chapter 7 as we get into the week leading into February 23rd. Enjoy your discussion. Thanks, everybody.